Hello and welcome, this is Mousegunner, and we're back with some more BattleTech, and my continued look at the backer beta build and the single player skirmish mode that is currently the only mode available. With this video, we'll be taking a look at another gimmicky build, not so much experimental this time around, just gimmicky for the fun of the build. But before we get into that build, I would like to discuss the previous video that I did where I had another gimmicky build, and I'd like to talk about that build a little bit. So the build that I had was called Cool Run-Ins, and it was supposed to be a build that focused on the most heat-efficient mechs in the game. But I noticed a little bit of an issue with a couple of the mechs, in particular the Awesome, which I would like to talk about. So after reflecting on what happened in that video, I went ahead and I looked at the source material for this game, which is the tabletop game BattleTech. And I looked into or dug into the tech manuals and I found the Awesome. And looking at the stats for that mech, we shouldn't have seen the kind of heat build up that we were seeing in that video. So in that video, the Awesome has 3 PPCs. When you fire off all 3 PPCs, we saw a pretty dramatic heat buildup. Well, the Awesome, the way it's built, with how many heat sinks it has, it should be able to cope with 3 PPCs being fired. Yeah, you'll see a little bit of heat buildup, but it should only be a small amount of buildup. It should take many turns of firing the PPCs continuously to build up the kind of heat that we were seeing in the game. Now, there's some elements of the game that I don't have a full understanding of. For instance, the heat bar itself, I don't know the numerical values involved with that heat bar. How much heat you have to build up to actually get the bar to be full to the point that you would be shutting down. But it seemed like within 3 to 5 turns, you would be shutting down an Awesome, firing off all 3 PPCs. That should not be the case the way that this is built. And considering that we have this heat bar here that should be underlining the heat efficiency in the mech, I think that is the way that the mech is supposed to work, or at least the way it's intended to work in this game. It's supposed to be a heat efficient mech, but that's not what we were seeing. So I am starting to think that that is a problem in the current build of the game. Perhaps a bug, perhaps the numbers aren't working the way that they're intended to work. I don't exactly know what actual thing is causing the problem. I don't know if it's a problem with the heat sinks, that they're not working as efficiently as they should be. I don't know if it's a problem with the PPCs. Maybe they're costing more heat than they should. I don't actually see any of the raw numbers on any of these weapons, unfortunately, so I don't actually know. I know they have done some balance changes in this game, but just based off of the fact that we have this very full heat bar here, I'm assuming that this is a mech that's supposed to run heat efficiently, and it's supposed to work more or less the way it does in the tabletop game. So unfortunately, I don't think the game is working as intended. I don't know exactly what the problem is, but I am going to write to the devs in a couple different ways, and hopefully they can sort this problem out. And when that happens, I'm more than likely going to return to the Cool Run-Ins build, because it's a build that I think is kind of fun, and it's one that I'd like to experiment with. Obviously, we need to have the heat efficiency working the way that it's supposed to. So right now, that may be a problem in the game. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the build that we're going to be doing in this video. So the build that I have is what I call the awful build. This is not a build that is really meant for anything other than fun, and also reflecting on the mechs, what we have in the game, and more or less my opinion on them. So what I've chosen for this lineup is the mechs that I consider to be the worst in the current lineup. Now, some of these mechs are okay, but they have some downsides. But the first mech we're going to start off with, I consider to be really the worst mech in the game, and this is true even in the tabletop game. This mech is just not a good mech. It's terrible. And I'll tell you exactly why. So if we take a look at the urban mech, first off, it's a light mech that is incredibly slow. This is a terrible thing, because a light mech is going to be limited in how durable it can be. There's only so much armor you can fit on a light mech. There's only so much firepower you can fit on a light mech. And if the light mech is really slow, it loses a lot of its survivability, so you're just going to get hammered by heavier mechs. That is a terrible design just in and of itself. So everything else about this mech, if you ignored it, that one element would make this a bad mech. But there's more to this mech that makes it even worse. On top of the fact that it is very slow, it is also not great on the firepower end of the scale. And that's because it's not using a very weight-efficient weapon. Most of its firepower rests on a single AC-10. And a single AC-10 is, well, if we were talking about the tabletop game, only going to deliver 10 damage, where 2 medium lasers could easily get that same amount of damage for a lot less weight, because the AC-10 with its ammo is almost consuming half of the tonnage of the 30 tons that we have to work with. That is a ton of weight to devote to a weapon that is not going to give you a lot of damage. And mostly the benefit of a ballistic weapon is going to be heat efficiency, something that you usually don't need on a light mech. And as a matter of fact, the urban mech actually has more heat sinks than it could ever really use, even using its jump jets to its max thrust and using its weapons, all of its weapons at the same time. You would never build up enough heat to actually tax the system. Now, I don't know if that's the way this works in the video game versus the tabletop game, but in the tabletop game, that's very much how it works. So yeah, this mech is just not good. The only real strong suit that it has is durability, and there are other mechs in the tabletop game again that have the same durability at the same weight and don't have these massive drawbacks of no speed and not much firepower to back that up. So not great. And also, when you consider the fact that the AC-10 only has 1 ton of worth of ammo, that means it only has 10 shots with the weapon. Now, again, I don't know if that's exactly how it works in the video game versus the tabletop game. In the tabletop game, 1 ton of AC-10 ammo is going to give you 10 shots, and that is it. So, and a lot rests on that, because the only other weapon you have is a small laser. Now, you do have jump jets that kind of make up for how slow this mech is, but this mech is so slow that assault mechs will outrun it, and that foot speed is going to limit how much jump jet speed you can get, because at least the way that it works in a tabletop game, your jump jet speed is linked to your walking speed. So this mech is just not good in the game. Moving on, we have the Vindicator. This is another mech that is not particularly great, but it's not as bad as the urban mech. It does actually have some potential. Mostly, it's just a mech that tries to do too much, and it doesn't do any of them well. So it has a single PPC for its long-range firepower, which is okay, but the combination of everything that this mech is trying to do, it doesn't have that great of firepower. Beyond the PPC, it's got a medium laser, and an LRM-5. So at range, it's not doing that much damage. There's a lot of mechs that can out-damage it at range, and then in close, it's not doing a lot of damage because all it has, I believe there's a small laser in here. Yeah, there's a small laser and a medium laser, and your LRM is not going to be very effective at close range, and eventually your PPC is not going to be very effective at close range. So if your opponent closes with you, all you've got is a medium laser and a small laser, and a lot of mechs are going to be able to out-damage that. Even mechs that are focused on long-range damage oftentimes can out-damage you. For instance, a Panther, which is a full 10 tons lighter than you, is going to be a decent challenge to what a Vindicator can do, because it has the same PPC, and then in close it is an SRM-4, which is getting kind of close to that medium laser and small laser in close. So, a 10-ton difference, and you're not seeing a lot of benefit. But again, it's not as bad as the urban mech. It's just a mech that has some flaws to it. Moving on, the next mech we're going to be taking a look at is the Quick Draw. Now, the Quick Draw, in and of itself, again, is not a terrible mech. It just has some downsides. The biggest of which is the fact that most of its firepower is focused in close. We have a lot of medium lasers and an SRM-4 as our main firepower. Now, you do have an LRM-10 for longer ranged fighting, but really the brunt of your firepower is in close. That's where you're supposed to be to mix it up. Unfortunately, you don't have the armor, the durability, to protect you at that range. And that's the real problem. Also, you have a lot of problems with heat and dealing with heat. So you get in close, you put in that high damage salvo, but if your opponent is still there, you're going to be really hot, and they're going to be able to trade into you, and a lot of other mechs, especially at this weight class, are just going to cause you to disintegrate because you don't have the armor to take the damage. So that is why the Quick Draw is kind of a bad mech at times. For instance, a Hunchback can do a lot of what the Quick Draw is trying to do and have greater durability to match, and on top of that, it's a lighter mech. Moving on to our last mech, we have the Victor. And the Victor is bad, in my opinion, mostly because of its armament. It is really working, most of its focus is on this AC-20, and the other downside of it is it tries to be a speedy mech. As you can see, the speed for this mech is pretty good for the fact that it's an assault mech. And it has jump jets. This is the real big drawback of this mech, is the fact that it's an assault mech with jump jets, which is going to cost you a lot of tonnage. The heavier a mech it is, the more tonnage you have to devote to jump jets to be able to lift it. So you're wasting tonnage by having jump jets on an assault mech. So that's kind of one problem this mech. Yeah, it gives it some maneuverability, but when you come to its firepower, a lot of its firepower is dependent upon a very heavy ballistic weapon, but it doesn't really have anything outside of that ballistic weapon to give it additional damage, because all you have is a couple medium lasers and an SRM-4. And again, if we go back to the Hunchback, I think has equal to as far as armor goes, so their only real advantage you have is the tonnage of the Victor. I'm trying to get to the proper, there we go. So a Hunchback here has an AC-20, same main firepower. It has one medium laser, not quite the two, and then it has a small laser. So yeah, you have a little bit of a firepower edge, but when you consider that you're adding on 30 tons to get that, and the Hunchback has the same foot speed as a Victor. So in my opinion, with what you're trying to do with the Victor, you're better off with a Hunchback in a lot of use cases, because you don't have quite the same value, so you can use a stronger overall lance to balance out that close-in firepower that you get with your Hunchback. But outside of that, you really don't lose a lot with that Hunchback. You're only losing a little bit of firepower. You're not losing a lot in durability. You're not losing a lot in speed. You're just really losing a very minute amount of firepower. So that's why I consider the Victor to be not really that great of a mech, all things considered. All right, I know that's a lot of things to say and go over, but that's why I consider this to be an awful build. The Urban Mech being the clear winner of this build, being the worst mech in the game in my consideration. Now, to pair this out, the pilots that I chose Blockade, purely because of the Angel of Death ability, which is going to give us more jump distance. I hope that this will allow us to maneuver a little bit faster with the Urban Mech, because you do have those jump jets, so we can take advantage of them. The Vindicator, I put in Sumo, who has good gunnery skill, but he also has the precision strike ability. So if we're using just that PPC as our main long-range poke, then we can strip away people's guard or cover defenses. For the quick draw, I chose Ozone. I mostly did this because Ozone is really good as far as dealing with heat with the Guts skill, and he's competent with gunnery and piloting. Well, piloting is kind of the baseline, but we also have Bulwark, so if we want to stand and trade, we can, and we get the guarded trait, which is going to reduce damage that's coming into us. Finally, we have the Victor, and I chose Paradise. Now, there's a number of mechs that you could probably choose for this role, and I think Paradise is good because you want to get close with Victor, the Victor mech, and to do that, I think the evasive, even when you're just moving, can be nice, but also you've got strong piloting. We can get in there and punch if we have to, and you've also got a decent gunnery skill, so we can use our weapons to best effect. So I think this pilot is going to be decent for us with the Victor. It'll allow us to close and use our firepower, and then when we get close, he'll be able to punch effectively. All right, we've gone over all that. Now, as far as my opponent, I went ahead with the heavy assault build, because I think we have a decent combination of mechs on their side. There are some concerns that the AI sometimes doesn't use certain mechs properly. I have some concerns with that with the Orion and the Centurion. We'll have to see, but the strength that they have going for them is some long-range ability. So I'm hoping that they won't suicide their lighter mechs in on us. Instead, they'll stand back and trade a little bit more than we've seen the AI do, but we'll have to see. All right, let's go ahead and play. Now, I do have quite a bit of a value disadvantage, as I am at 21 and some change million, whereas they're closer to that 25 million of the war budget. So we are disadvantaged as far as value, and we're disadvantaged as far as the fact that we're using what I consider to be not very good mechs. So we have a couple disadvantages working against us, but hopefully we can pull out a victory.
Command interface initiated.
All right. So I'm using the nighttime environment, which is, I think this is the first time I've ever done it. And in the past, I haven't done it because I get concerned about YouTube and how much you can see. And as we can see, most of the map is pretty dark outside of our line of sight. But it looks like as long as we have line of sight, it's going to be decent. Now, this is going to cause me to have some unknowns with the train in front of me. But I think we can manage okay. So as far as everything goes, I think we're going to go ahead and put Sumo right in here. Now, one problem we're going to have is line of sight. I did not take, and I thought about taking, a mech that gave me sensor lock, which would allow me to establish line of sight. But when I considered the strengths of the mechs that I have and the fact that a good percentage of them are stronger in close, I figured that wouldn't be too much of a liability. All right, I'm going to go ahead and sprint here, and we'll just sprint into cover. As you can see, I didn't get anywhere near as far as that Vindicator got with that sprint. Okay. Now, where I'm going to go with the quick draw, I think over here. Now, I do have that LRM-10 to use, so we could use the quick draw at longer distances, but I have to consider the strength of my opponent, too, and my considerations. All right. Unfortunately, the Victor, although is speedy for an assault mech, is not that speedy. I mean, the Hunchback has the same kind of speed, and we know that that is not a particularly fast mech. Okay, we do have our sensor contact. Now, as far as initiative advantages go, I believe I'll have the slight advantage because I have a light mech and they have none.
Look alive. We've got company.
But outside of that, we should be paired pretty close. So we can have the urban mech go now. And this is how far a normal move, a normal walk gets you in the urban mech. Not very far. The jump is going to allow us to traverse a little bit further just because it's going to ignore terrain penalties like this forest in front of us, but we're not going to get a lot of distance out of this. And then finally we have our sprint, which again, not great because the train in front of us is causing us to be slower. So I think we should take the sprint though, just because it will keep us a little bit more defended. And I'll sprint to here because it might give me sight lines of the enemy.
Copy that.
In this circumstance, I didn't feel like it was of any benefit to me. Oh, unfortunately, we just are shy of getting sight on this particular target. I think with the Vindicator, we just reserve because our Vindicator is going to depend a lot upon its long-range firepower. I'm kind of hoping that we get sight lines of... I was going to say, I kind of hoping that we were going to get sight lines of somebody.
Confirmed.
Doesn't look like we have to move that far, though, to establish. As a matter of fact, that's all the distance we need to move. So, in this case, I think we do that with the Victor. So I'm going to continue to reserve here. And we'll establish line of sight with the Victor, hopefully, by running him. Keeps him defensive. Although we don't necessarily have to run with Paradise to get that evasive. But we're not going to be able to get line of sight and fire this turn anyway. So why don't we get line of sight by running? Establish that line of sight for our other two mechs. Unfortunately, we don't have sensor lock this time. But as we can see with the Centurion does not have evasive. Instead, he went with the guard move, which means that we can... Oh, we did take that PPC hit.
Their targeting skills are not impressive.
I was kind of hoping that our dodge would have saved us a little bit there. Alright, so our Vindicator can attack here. And we're going to attack the Centurion because we can do the most damage, I think, to it. So what I'm going to do is remove the LRM-5. This is going to cause the guard bonus to go away because we have precision strike, and we will go ahead and fire. Okay. That's interesting. We were in cover. Did that one PPC do full damage to me when I was in cover? That doesn't sound right. Alright, now our quick draw.
What are your orders, Skipper?
Now, the quick draw, we can keep where it is, and it would get guarded. Or we can move it up a little bit. I think... either way we look at this, probably fine just staying put for now. Although closing distance might be good. I want to use the LRM here to its best advantage. So do we go after the guy that can dodge or the guy that's going to take less damage? We don't have a great chance to hit the Vindicator, so I think we just go after the guy that is going to be a surer hit. It's just going to take less damage. So we'll fire off our LRM-10.
Here we go.
We don't have a lot of shots here with the LRM, so it's good to get them out of the way now. Oh, we managed to get a head hit, so that's good. Okay, we're back around. Now we should have line of sight established with our light mech now, so we don't actually have to move at all with our light mech. Which means I might have been better off taking the bulwark trait now that I think about it, rather than the jumping ability. We could also jump closer and to get into range, but I don't know if that's really going to benefit me. Or precision strike might have been better here, because we're only going to be using the one weapon. As you can see, ammo, 8. Actually less than the tabletop game. Normally that would be 10. Interesting. So, if we're only going to get 8 shots, we better make them count. I think we're going to wait. We've got evasive now. Let's just reserve. Let's let one of them go.
Confirm.
And see what we can get going. So he's going to back up. Probably going to use his LRMs. Yeah, there he goes. Oh, we did dodge a good amount of that, though. And that might be what the enemy does, too. So, I have to be prepared for that. I'm going to reserve one more time. Yeah, see, that's exactly what the enemy's going to do. And that's actually not a bad idea for the enemy. Because what they're doing is they're breaking line of sight with me. And then they're doing damage. So... it's pretty good for them. That's the AI using its advantages pretty nicely. Well, at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and reserve again. I think we're in the most defensive position that we possibly can be. And there's no real disadvantage of allowing the enemy to go one more time here. That is one thing that the AI doesn't do. They don't reserve themselves. Now, they're going to have to keep line of sight so that they can use their long-range attack. So I kind of expect that their Orion's going to do that. Now, as you can see, the Victor doesn't quite have that good of armor, all things considered. It is an assault mech, but it really doesn't have great armor. And unfortunately, because they made me unsteady, I no longer have the ability to use my evasive as I had intended, which was to get in close. So they've already very much limited me by focusing on the Victor. So I don't think that it's maybe a good plan to brace, but I think with all things being considered, it might be my best option. So I'm just going to go ahead and move into the water here. We're going to establish line of sight. And then I think I'm going to brace.
Move order received.
I don't know if we would gain our evasive when I do that? That's actually a good question, so we'll find out. We did regain the evasive. So this is going to give me the best defense that I possibly can have. And here comes the awesome shots. Missed. Okay, he only fired off one PPC. That actually kind of surprises me. All right, now we get to respond to what they did. So the Orion is the best target, but the question is, with blockade, who's actually the best target for us? So 90% and 55%. Well, this is an obvious target. I think with the urban mech, we're going to want to move a little bit. So let's jump. And I'm going to jump in here. That way I can see both opponents. This might limit my chance to hit, but it also might put the urban mech in a position that is dangerous for us, but it is what it is. So 90% and 70%. We're going to do the most damage against the Orion if we hit, but if we miss, that would be kind of bad. So let's go for the Orion anyway, because I think I'm going to focus on the Orion. We did manage to hit him in the arm, so pretty good damage. And then our Vindicator. In this case, he doesn't have any cover, so there's no real disadvantage using the LRMs here, which we have a 100% chance to hit with. We have a better chance to hit the Awesome, though. So it's tempting to go after the Awesome instead of the Orion. But I've already decided that I want to focus my fire over there. So let's go ahead and do that. So the PPC is going to be a possible miss here. But we're not going to build up that much heat. So let's just go ahead and fire this off. We did manage to hit with it, so that's good. All right, and finally, Ozone gets to go here. So I'm going to go ahead and move into the water here so that I can get the best advantage of the cooling. I have to keep in mind, though, that the Quick Draw does not have good defense. So this movement is going to cause me to be a little bit of a problem, but we're going to want to run a little bit cooler, so all right, our LRM's not going to be as effective at this range. I think I'm just going to turn it off to save us the heat. Granted, does it really matter? We want to try and do as much damage as we can. Oh, you know what? This is the first time I'm seeing the modifiers. I guess I needed to hover to get that tooltip. That's nice to see. You get a little bit of an idea of what's causing your shots to land here. Okay. I think I am going to use the LRM-10 at this point because it's not doing that much heat to us. I know it's not a great chance to hit, but why not? All right, managed to hit him in the head and did some pretty good damage, specifically to that leg. Okay, it's Blockade's turn again.
Yep.
And we do have a movement thing going our way to make us a harder target to hit. So we might want to see what they're going to do here. So I'm going to reserve just to see if they will fire at my light mech instead of the assault mech. So we'll reserve, and then we'll kind of get an idea, what are they going to do? They might want to continue to... Yeah, that's what I thought. So this is going to be reducing their chance to hit. More than it would be if I just stood still, which is possibly what I'll do here. On the other hand, I could jump again. And see what that would look like. So I can jump over here into cover. And that actually might be pretty good for us. So let's jump over there.
Copy that.
So I do find that interesting with the ammo. This mech's actually worse than it would normally be, in my opinion. Okay, let's go ahead and fire off our shot. Still 70%.
Firing.
We did miss. That sucks.
Lucky that one.
Oh, we're having a little bit of a bug with the reticle there. So So I think the reason they're not going after the Victor is because of how well defended he is. Okay.
Yeah? What can I do you for?
At this point, I think we attack again. We're going to keep going after the Orion. Although I believe the Orion will probably go next. And we might not get the advantage of knocking him down or anything like that.
I'll make them dead.
Okay, we missed with our big damage, unfortunately. So that didn't turn out too well for us. Because we missed with some really good damage potential. Okay, so I kind of suspected that he would do that. And now it's our job to make him pay for it. So what we're going to do... we can move or we can jump. Honestly, I think a normal movement is going to be the best thing that we can do. So we're just going to do this move. And we're going to unload on this guy at close range. Now, our LRM is going to be pretty much useless at this range, but we should be able to get some good damage in here. So I'm going to turn off the LRM 10. And this will give us a good opportunity to cool all the way off. Let's go ahead and fire off all of our weapons.
Acknowledge.
Fortunately, we didn't do as much damage as I would have liked. Okay, here comes the Awesome. I expect... Again, only firing one PPC. I don't know what the AI is up to with that. Okay, so now Paradise gets to move. And for this move, I want to get in behind the Orion for sure. So let's go ahead and do this move. And we're going to unload on the Orion at close range. All of my weapons are in close, so we can fire all of them. I'm curious, why does the AC-2 have a worse chance to hit? Okay, so medium lasers have an automatic accuracy bonus. That's interesting. That's not how the way the tabletop game works. Let's go ahead and fire here.
Unloading a full salvo.
So I think our AC-20 just missed, which is bullcrap.
That's critical hit.
But these things happen. Okay, so... we're back around. At this point... we could continue to focus on the Orion, but I do have to consider the fact that the Orion has its back to me. Unfortunately, the two mechs that would be able to take advantage of that more than likely will not go before it. We could hit the Awesome, which is a pretty good target for us here. But I think I am going to reserve, because I have a feeling the damage that's going to come into us is going to be on our light mech. Nope, it's not. Okay. That's fine.
There's a hole in my armor.
I think we use Sumo here.
What's up, Commander?
He does not have direct line of sight to who I want to shoot at. Now, we could just stand here and fire our PPC off and then remove his guard. Let's see what our chance to hit is, though. It's 55. That's terrible. So, I think we have to move at this point. There we go. That way we're actually establishing line of sight with both of the targets we want to hit. And then I can decide which of the two that I want to fire at. So, 100% there. And we can hit the Awesome with a decent amount of our firepower, but I think we go after the Orion here. I want to do as much damage as I can, but we're going to go ahead and only fire one weapon so that we are stripping away the guard.
Piece of cake.
And that does do good damage. Okay, here comes their Vindicator, jumping in on me. Did he just do a death from above attack? Okay.
I'm under heavy fire.
Here comes a small laser. Might knock us down. Or if they come after me again, it might knock me down. Okay. Well, I'm gonna reserve again. We knew the Orion was gonna go here. Let's see what he does. Gonna come around. It might punch me. No, he's just gonna go in for some close damage.
Armor blow through. Internal damage.
Alright, now we get to respond to the damage that he just did to me. We're going to come in, get behind him. We might lose our quick draw in this, but... There we go, that's what we need. Right there.
Move order received.
And we're going to unload on the Orion in his back. I don't have Inspire, so... We're going to fire off all our weapons. This time we're not going to have the cooling effect of the water. Our chance to hit is not particularly great here.
Target lock on enemy stick.
You did manage to kill him, though. Probably do the same thing to the Vindicator with our Victor. Granted, we would be giving our back if we do that with our Victor, so I have to consider that a little bit carefully.
Yeah.
Now, I could move this mech in a way that we can... I think I'm going to reserve one more time. Oh, we did have an Inspire. Okay. Well, that's fine. We're going to go ahead and reserve one more time. Because I want to see what their assault mech is going to do. And he's going to come in and punch me, it looks like. Ow.
Reporting.
We just lost our small laser. And then he's going to fire a small laser at me, which fortunately missed. Well, that hurt a lot. Maybe I should have moved away. I didn't actually think that the Awesome could cover that kind of distance. Alright. Now with Blockade. Well, I'm going to jump here. Frankly, the jump doesn't really necessarily matter. I just want to get in behind if I can. More than likely that Awesome's going to kill me here, but... Oh well. Now, a lot is riding on this shot, and it's a terrible shot. Alright.
Target lock on it.
We did manage to hit with it. So that's good. Alright, finally, our big assault. He's going to give his back to his opponents, but we're going to try and kill this Vindicator right now. And our chance to hit is, again, pretty bad here. I'm going to assume movement because that guy did jump in, but we're still going to go for it. Everything we've got, fire. I should have, now that I think about it, I should have done my Inspire. I always forget about that. We did manage to kill him, though, so that worked to plan, technically. Okay, we're back around. Well, I think there's absolutely no reason to reserve this point, so... We're going to come in. And we're going to get in behind this guy. Our back armor is actually fresher than our front armor, so in this case, I don't really have a problem giving up my back. And we're going to just smack this Awesome in its rear armor with our AC-10. Still not a great chance to hit. But we do manage to hit. Do manage to strip through that armor. I expect the Centurion to take... Oh, I was going to say to take the back of the Urban Mech, but nope.
Oh, crap. Oh. That hit me.
Okay.
Yeah? What can I do you for?
So Sumo is going to attack the Awesome. We're going to fire everything we've got here. He's got no defenses, so this is going to be full damage. Okay, now it's Ozone's turn. Now we could come up here and attack the Centurion, but I don't think that's actually the better move. I think the better move is to get into the water here and go after the Awesome in his back, if we can pull it off. Yeah, right here looks like a good move, because we can get our facing so that we're not giving our back to anyone. We're getting his back. And we'll be in the water so we can unload here if we want. Now, the Awesome is going to be able to turn around after this point, but we're still going to do it. And I'm going to fire the LRM-10 here. It's not a great chance to hit, but why not? And I should have inspired again. I keep forgetting about that. Alright, I managed to take out one of his PPCs. We might do the inspire with our Victor here. Okay, he's going to go and get in the forest, and then he's going to fire and miss. He's still only firing one PPC. I don't know what that's about. I wonder if that mech is just totally bugged for the AI.
Awaiting orders.
Okay. Well, at this point, I think I am going to inspire. But I'm going to inspire. Do we keep going after the Awesome? The Awesome has actually turned around and put his his back, is the word I'm trying to say, up against the wall, so we can't get at that rear armor anymore, unfortunately. Let's move here. And then I'll use my Inspire attack to get through the cover that he has.
Will be done.
I should still be able to Inspire even though I moved already. So, Inspire.
That's right. A storm is coming.
And then we'll fire off all of our weapons. And we'll be ignoring his cover, so we'll be able to do maximum damage here. And as you can see, the Awesome has spectacular, some may say awesome, armor in the front. Now, I may very well be able to get in behind this guy. I'm gonna have to do risky stuff to do it, though. I think we jump here, and then maybe next turn we'll be able to jump up on top. And if we can jump up on top, we'll be able to get behind him. If he does come in for a punch, he's going to give his back to my heavy and my assault, so we'll be able to take advantage of that. So either way you look at it, I think this is a good move. I'm just going to pivot in a way that we're not giving our back to the Centurion. Got a pretty good chance to hit here. He's going to have some damage reduction. And we do manage to knock him down, so our quick draw will be able to take advantage of that. Appears the Centurion's going to come in for an attack. Didn't expect that attack to come there.
Armor breach. Internal damage.
Down we go. I expect the Awesome to get up and just stomp the urban mech. I mean, that's what I would do. You take a mech out. Now, granted, that would put him into a position where he could take a lot of damage to his rear. All right, we're going to go ahead and fire off these two weapons, as we do have a good chance to hit here on the Centurion. I have a couple different choices here with my two heavier mechs. I could try and get the back, and I would succeed at getting the back of the Centurion and trying to punish him, or I could wait to see what the Awesome does. And because of that, I am going to reserve here. I could have done a called shot on the Awesome. Okay, so he's just going to get up and stand there. All right, I didn't actually expect that.
Internal damage.
All right, well, I think I've kind of made up my mind with Ozone. Ozone is going to get in here, and he's going to get in behind the Centurion. And we're going to just unload on this guy. Ozone can handle heat pretty nicely, so we'll turn off the LRM-10 because that doesn't make any sense to fire, but we'll fire off everything else.
Affirmative.
Hopefully we don't get that many misses here. You got at least one. We didn't kill him, but we did a lot of damage. We could try and finish him with a Victor, but I don't think we'll be able to pull that off. So instead, I think we're just going to come after the Awesome here. What is the Awesome doing as far as armor? We could punch, or I could just try and come around so that I could get its back. What's our punch? If I punch here, it will allow me to move here, which is where I'd want to move anyway. Let's go ahead and do the punch. So we've got a 100% chance to hit. And then I'll try and get in behind him if I can. If I can't, then that's okay. Okay. Well, we at least made him unsteady. Now it's Blockade's turn. We need to stand up. But then we'll try and jump up on top of this ridge. I don't know if we have quite the movement to pull it off. Looks like we do, but I can't get the line of sight I'm looking for. Yeah, it doesn't look like I'll be able to... Oh, I could jump there, though. All right, let's jump there. That doesn't mean that we won't be able to move there with our Victor next turn, but I have a feeling that the Awesome is going to do something to try and stop this damage anyway. Because I would if people were getting my back like this. All right, 65% chance. Not great, but we're going to fire nonetheless. And we missed. Whew. All right. Well, we only have a couple more shots there. Centurion is going to back up and do nothing. Okay, now it is...
Something I can do.
Well, he didn't do nothing. He guarded. I think what we're going to do is we're going to use our precision strike here. We're going to go after him with the PPC.
I'm gonna make
Not a great chance to hit, but if we hit, it's going to do good damage. All right, now it's Ozone's turn. I think this move is pretty obvious. We're going to get in behind his back again. Get into cover at the very least. And we're going to do as much damage as we can. I might even take a shutdown here, although I don't know if that's a good idea. But if we can kill the Centurion, all the better. This wouldn't actually shut down. I'm going to fire everything I've got here.
copy that.
Unfortunately, we didn't kill him. I mean, that is kind of the problem with the quick draws. Maybe not the best damage. Okay, the Awesome is going to move here. Looks like he's going to take the back of the Victor. But I suspect the attack's going to come in on, again, only one PPC. And he didn't fire the small laser, which would have been the right weapon to fire in that range. So I'm starting to think that the Awesome is actually bugged out in more than one way. The way that the AI handles it, but also the heat, perhaps. And that might be why the AI doesn't use all three PPCs anyway. All right, let's get in behind this guy. We should be able to unload on him. We didn't build up that much heat from the last turn. Just go ahead and fire everything we've got here. The Victor is a pretty cool running mech, despite what it shows on the heat bar. Okay, we didn't quite take him out, but he's going to go down. And then we should be able to jump behind him with our urban mech and take a cold shot on him before he gets up. Okay, so blockade, that's exactly what I'm going to do. His normal movement can't take him there, but his jump can. So we're going to jump in behind him. Survivability of the urban mech is not paramount, but so far we haven't lost anybody. I'm actually really surprised at that. We are going to attack here, 75% chance. I'm going to go for a called attack on his center torso because we are attacking from the rear. Although I don't know if that's working. Again, another miss. Wow. We might have been able to kill the Awesome there. That's unfortunate. Okay, the Centurion's going to move and give me his back again. I think he just took out the, yeah, he just took out the urban mech. See, I spoke too soon there. All right, well, this is a pretty obvious kill here. I'm going to move so I've got a clearer line of sight. As a matter of fact, we might as well even move closer when we can. And we'll just open up on the Centurion here with both of our weapons, because he doesn't have any defense, so... outside of just his normal movement. We did manage to hit with both weapons. Now, most of the damage he's taken is to his rear, so his front armor is holding out okay. Now, he's given me a great opportunity here because I can get in behind him and I can be in water. Two things that I really would like to do. All right, at this juncture, we might as well open up with everything.
Here we go.
We did manage to miss with a fair amount of it, but that shouldn't matter. He should be going down.
Target down.
Okay, so just one more mech left, although it is an Awesome. Granted, we have stripped out all of its armor in the rear, so if we can get another rear attack here, we should be golden. Now, he's just going to punch me, I assume. which actually has a lot of risk potential to us. Okay, one of our heat sinks went down.
It's like that and I'm dead.
Here comes a small laser.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, and he did knock me down, although that's not going to matter too much. As long as it doesn't kill my pilot.
Wounded.
Okay. Gonna be Paradise,
Commander.
who's gonna stand up, and who's gonna get behind the Awesome and unload on him. We haven't lost any weapons, so this should be no problem at all.
Here we go.
Let's just get in here right behind him.
Moving out.
And I think this is gonna be a dead Awesome. So let's just open up here. We don't have a great chance to hit with some of these weapons, but I think the fact that the AC-20 there hit shows us that that was going to be all over. Now, if the AC-20 had missed, it's possible we wouldn't have killed the Awesome. So, there we have it. There is my quote-unquote awful build. Now, personally speaking, I think if that Awesome, the AI, was working properly and actually using as many PPCs as it actually had, rather than just a single one every time, we would have been eating a lot more damage than we were, and this could have gone against us, as both the Victor and the Quick Draw took a lot of damage. Now, our Vindicator was untouched, but it can only do so much damage. I think the Vindicator, with the role that it plays, is best at range. I still don't think that it does that as well as other mechs that are actually built for that purpose. A little bit better, but from what I've seen, that seems to be where the Vindicator is at its best. The Quick Draw, it's questionable because it does have good damage up close, but it's really nothing outrageous. I mean, really, it has equal firepower to a Jenner, which is a significantly lighter mech than it. So maybe not the best up close, and long range, you got an LRM-10. The problem is those two things don't overlap each other, and an LRM-10 is not really enough for me at 60 tons. At 60 tons, you need to have more firepower than that. The Victor did its job okay. I still think that there are mechs at this weight that are a lot better than it. I think there are mechs that are lighter than it that are better than it. Just as far as your best value proposition, I think a Hunchback can do a lot of the same things that a Victor is trying to do at a better value proposition. But in any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. This is Melsgunner, signing out.